Good morning, everyone. I think we're still seeing a lot of new people joining, so we're just going to give it a minute. But good to see so many joining already. We had over 500 registrations today, so I think we'll just give it a minute. Good morning from everywhere, from Berlin, Copenhagen, Luxembourg, UK. Great to see the Netherlands. Fantastic. Nearly 100 participants now. Vietnam, great. Oh, okay, sounds hazy. I need to speak up. Thank you. I hope it's better now. Spain, Somerset, Korea, great. Good afternoon. Good, more people joining. I would say 30 seconds perhaps, and then we'll start because we have a full program this morning. Hi from Denmark and China, fantastic. Good to see. Truly global. Portugal. Well, I think we can start our presentation. We're doing introductions first. Maybe this will help if I keep it closer to. Is this clearer now? Yes, fantastic. Okay. Jasmine, could you start the slides? Fantastic. Okay, well, a very big welcome and thank you so much to everyone who's tuned into this webinar today. I'm very excited. We had over 500 registrations, so that's really phenomenal, I think. And I'm really excited to be joined by our expert speaker, Meerte de Beukelaar, Senior Market Analyst at Innova Market Insights. And before I hand over to Meerte, I just want to introduce myself. My name is Jasmijn de Boo and I'm the Vice President of ProVeg International. ProVeg is an international food awareness organization working to transform the global food system by replacing conventional animal-based products with plant-based and cultured alternatives. ProVeg works with decision makers to help the world transition to a society and economy that are more or less dependent, less dependent on animal agriculture and is more sustainable for humans, animals, and the planet. And we operate globally. We have currently 10 offices throughout Europe, America, Africa, and Asia. Our vision is, of course, to create a world where everyone chooses delicious and healthy food that's good for all humans, animals, and the planet. And our mission is to reduce the global consumption of animal-based products by 50% by the year 2040. In order to achieve these goals, we work across the entire value chain, which gives us a unique insight into the key challenges, hurdles, and opportunities at every stage of the journey to take a product to market. As a leading NGO, we have no commercial agenda, which allows us to provide objective expert advice and help support companies to successfully and effectively harness the power and profitability of the shift to plant-based eating. We partner with key companies from leading brands, retailers, and food service providers to support them in their plant-based activities. For example, we recently worked with Lidl to help them expand their private label plant-based offering through the creation and execution of a bespoke consumer study, which aimed to determine consumer needs, white space opportunities, and consumer preferences. We also ran a successful co-branded social media campaign around the barbecue season, which explored the topic of plant-based barbecues on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and saw over 2,600 posts with the hashtag #LidlVegan during and after the campaign. So this is just one example, but we work with companies in many different ways, depending on their unique needs and challenges. But our goal is always to support everyone in taking steps towards an affordable and accessible plant-based offering. And if anyone is interested in learning more about our interventions, I'd be pleased to share more information with you. We've recently launched our new Food Hub, an ultimate guide for food industry leaders. It's packed with concise expert guides designed for busy people. We've compiled global market data, case studies, and professional recommendations in one easy-to-use place. Get the ultimate bird's-eye view of the alternative protein sector with clear, actionable insights. And just in case you haven't heard yet of our new Food Hub, here's a short video to explain everything a little bit more. So make sure you visit New Food Hub after this webinar and check out our extensive selection of white papers and reports on this New Food Hub. We've partnered with Innova and the New Food Hub to give you access to exclusive data and insights, and I'm very excited to be co-hosting this webinar as part of our collaboration. Now, without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to our speaker, Meerte de Beukelaar, who will be sharing her insights into how to position plant-based foods to maximize their appeal. Meerte de Beukelaar is an experienced market analyst at Innova Market Insights, a global knowledge leader in the food and beverage industry. Meerte holds a master's degree in nutrition and health and specializes in data analysis and health communication and innovation. With her commercial knowledge, nutritional knowledge, and analytical skills, she provides Market Innova Insights customers with the knowledge they need to succeed. So there will be some time at the end for questions. So do pop your questions in the Q&A section, and I'll be sure to address these to Meerte. So over to you, Meerte, now.
All right. Thank you very much, Jasmijn, to introduce me. It's great to be here. And I'm very excited to partner with ProVeg International for the first time and share my healthy indulgence take on plant-based trends in the next 30 minutes or so. So I hope you'll come away from this webinar with inspiring product success stories and a better view of how to position your plant-based products, and also ideas to meet your consumers' desire for both indulgence and health. And before we start, I'd like you all to have a look at a poll that we've created. I think it will pop up soon. Do let me know if that's the case. Yes. So the question is, What's the name of Innova's plant-based top trend identified for 2022? Good luck. Okay, so just to give you an idea of where this presentation comes from and how we track trends and how we can help, we're a global intelligence company and we have a professional network of in-country researchers. And we combine that to give you a product using the latest technology so that you can make data-driven decisions. So as you can see on this slide, we have a massive online platform that we use for this. It contains 150 million records. And we built this over 30 years' time. We track 600,000 new products launched annually. And that's the value for food, for supplements, everything that you can eat and drink, basically. And we also cover household, beauty, and personal care products. So we like to present ourselves as a one-stop shop. So you don't have to have a lot of individual suppliers. You can just go to one platform and you can learn everything you need to know about trends, about new products, consumer insights, market sizing, everything to support your company needs. So if you're planning to innovate or you're looking to build a strategy, you're looking to figure out what's the size of the price, we have the insights for you. And we also have a team of people that can support you with that, including myself. So I'm part of the analyst team at Innova Market Insights, and I'm always happy to help. But let's go to our topics of today. So today we will focus on health-forward messaging, on mastering plant-based indulgence, and ultimately all about healthy indulgent product developments and the growing role of collaborations and partnerships. And I will use Innova's top 10 trends throughout this entire presentation because it will help to connect the case studies and that I will be sharing with you, and also to get an idea of the bigger picture and to pinpoint new opportunities in the plant-based space. So here's our most used infographic every year, our blue top 10 trends wheel. If you're not familiar with Innova's top 10 trends, then the poll was probably really hard for you. Every year we release a range of reports that are dedicated to the top 10 food and beverage trends identified for each upcoming year. And it's basically our key selection of trends to be aware of, providing forward-looking insights on what's impacting the food and beverage industry. So it's the most anticipated thing that we do every year. And I'm happy to say that we already kicked off the work on our top 10 trends for 2023 within the analyst team. But today we're going to dive a bit deeper in our number 2 trend for 2022, plant-based, the canvas for innovation. So I'm just gonna look at our poll to see if you had it right. Yes, so 54% of the audience had it right. It's plant-based, the canvas for innovation. That's nice to see. So we actually did use all these names in top 10 trend releases, but watching the trend evolve over time, the plant-based sector is now more than an alternative. It is the canvas for innovation. So when you look at technological developments alone, for plant-based, you can tell it's really setting the pace for wider industry innovation as well. Especially for plant-based, we see a strong interconnection between all other trends that you see here as well. So our first topic of today, health-forward messaging. There's a bolstered interest in healthier, in happier, and mindful lifestyles. But how is the industry responding? As I mentioned, we've been tracking the plant-based trend for some years now, and the trend is definitely evolving over time. So for example, in 2019, we identified the plant kingdom as one of our top 10 trends, and then we had the plant-based revolution, plant forward, and now plant-based, the canvas for innovation. And this evolution over time, this of course has to do with the rising mainstream appeal of plant-based, with consumer perception shaping what we call the canvas for innovation. And when we ask consumers globally, for what reasons would you consider plant-based alternatives? Health was still the #1 driver compared to last year. What we also see as a change is that environmental sustainability, so it is better for the planet, has gone up to second place compared to last year. And other key drivers for considering plant-based alternatives are diet variety and the reflection of personal values and beliefs. So how does the industry respond? This what we see here on the slide is a great example of a brand positioning on more than just health. So this is Amazonica Mundi, and they launched almondegas in Brazil last year. It's a type of meatball, and they paid attention to the type of ingredients used. So they use cashew fiber as the base of their meatball, which is upcycled from cashew fruit juice. So what you basically see are there's an upcycling approach for a more sustainable positioning, but there's also a local element. So they're using cashew fiber together with local ingredients like assisi pepper and acai, and they go back to their roots like this, and they reflect that through their packaging design as well. So these positionings allow consumers to consider these products not only for health, but also to let the upcycled and local attributes be a potential tiebreaker for consumer choice. So now if we zoom out on the whole concept of health, it may not be only about the nutritional aspects of it when you ask consumers. So we are seeing that 28% of consumers globally say that they include environmental well-being when thinking about holistic health. So this is also something that we saw in our key consumer drivers, right, for plant-based. But this also interconnects with our leading trend for 2022, shared planet. And this is where we see that health also includes a healthy planet. And if you've seen our top 10 trends for 2022, you see that, and we've highlighted that here again, that a major shift that we're seeing from a consumer perspective is that health of the planet is now being a top global issue for consumers, surpassing the health of the population. And the shift is also highly visible when we look at product innovations over the past year, and when we look around us, there's a much bigger focus on making the environmental benefits more tangible to the consumer. So one example of doing this is through storytelling and by focusing on ingredient sourcing. So this is what I'm highlighting here with the Cleveland kimchi products. They say that their team is extremely proud of their Cleveland heritage and thoughtfully sourced ingredients locally from Midwest farmer. So that is what their storytelling is all about when it comes to this plant-based product. So what other interconnections do we see? What other drivers are interesting to highlight? Values. So food choices, they are now signals of entire lifestyles as personal values intertwine with purchasing decisions. So basically, you can see products embodying values and beliefs as a marketing strategy. That's going beyond only targeting consumers by adapting to consumption-related preferences. So think of focusing on aspects like keto or that kind of diet and lifestyle aspects, but it also goes to targeting consumers by reflecting broader values and beliefs, and plant-based obviously is one of them. So here we have an example of Mescla. Mescla has signed a year-long collaboration with the Hunger Project to highlight the importance of access to education and technology on the journey to ending hunger. So for everyone who kind of connects with that kind of initiative, they might be more inclined to buy this type of products and feel a connection to the brand as well. There's a big importance of food and health experience that resonates with consumer self-identity through consumption-related preferences and values and beliefs, so both of them. And it's also about recognizing and reinforcing the value of the emotional experience, obviously. That is also part of health and happiness. We saw in one of our surveys that 1 in 2 consumers globally say that feeling happy and eating what I want is more important than body type. So that is also quite striking. But health, of course, is also about nutrition. And no matter the strategy used for improving nutrition in products, it's always interesting to look at ingredients. So those are questions that you can then ask yourself. So what are the newest ingredients out there? Are there maybe ingredients that are used in a different formats? And these are all questions that we, from an Innova perspective, can answer using our data and tools. But as we've been tapping into the potential of nutrient-dense ingredients, we see there's a growing appetite for fungi. And I have two news article highlights here on meaty foods and on bosque foods. So meaty foods, they're a US startup, and we've been tracking them for a while now. They are tapping into the potential of fermented mycelium and the development of meat alternatives, including whole cuts. Yeah, so fermented mycelium and fermentation in general is also a good technology to keep an eye on in the plant-based space. We also saw Bosque Foods that recently unveiled their first mycelium-based pork and chicken options. They're also offering whole cuts, by the way. And they actually showcased these products for the first time in Europe during a private tasting at the ProVeg incubator in Berlin. And another great example on positioning ingredients is here on the right. So this is not a mycelium or fungi-based product, but I thought that it was an interesting way to position a familiar ingredient, artichoke, as a star ingredient in this cutting veg product from Reese's. So it's basically used to really make a consumer more familiar with the product itself because they know the ingredients already. And you can see that throughout the whole packaging design as well. They're really placing the artichoke as the starring role of the whole product. All right. There are also a lot of product format opportunities, and we've looked here, for example, at on-the-go healthy snacking. So we did a survey on occasions, snacking occasions, and we had a lot of respondents saying that they typically consume snacks while traveling on the go, obviously. And this is a question that was answered by those people. So the people who typically consume snacks while traveling and on the go. So we asked, what is your predominant attitude towards snacking while traveling? And 36% of consumers say they choose something healthy so that they can indulge at another time of the day. So they're prioritizing health on the go, but then they want to indulge another time. The second option, answer option was I make a compromise and choose a healthier alternative. So here again, health was prioritized. So that's an interesting aspect for being on the go. And an interesting case study for that is Calo. So this is a launch from the UK, and they already had a lot of products, veggie cakes, and they just expanded on their own success. They said that they were driving a 60% incremental category growth with 30% repeat rates. And to expand on that success, they launched this new, more portable format of products, a mini format of veggie cakes to be consumed on the go. And this is a brand that is part of the Ecotone family. And they continue also to innovate in plant-based products that also support wildlife biodiversity. This whole launch is part of their mission to prove that healthy food doesn't have to be dull, and by offering consumers a range of products that are vibrant, colorful, and full of flavor. And this already gives a hint, the flavor, on the indulgent part. So how are brands mastering plant-based indulgence? So there's a growing demand for a broader range of plant-based products. That is our starting point. We asked consumers, for which categories would you like to see more plant-based alternatives in supermarkets and in stores? And we see that meat alternatives are still higher in demand than milk alternatives, which is interesting. But there's also a lot of interest in plant-based treats. So, for example, ice cream and frozen desserts and chocolates and baked goods. And we see at least 1 in 5 consumers seeking plant-based treats. So there's definitely a lot of interest in that indulgence side for plant-based. And we've been tracking this as well, plant-based indulgence, a key innovation platform to watch out for. And we see now especially accelerating opportunities for plant-based indulgence. We see a plus 46% growth in food and beverage launches with a plant-based and a premium and indulgent claim. And this is tracked between 2018 and 2021. So product example for this one would be the Guel products, reishi and chaga tea cookies, also very interesting ingredients that are being applied here. They position on a melt-in-mouth shortbread, but better, a favorite herbal tea blend, and made these coconut and mushroom bites for an indulgent boost. So they're really positioning on that indulgent elements, using those ingredients, but also the storytelling, making it sound very indulgent in a very indulgent category. So when looking at those categories, what are the top segments that we see for positioning plant-based indulgence? So we looked again at both the plant-based and a premium and indulgent claim. Globally in 2021, we saw that confectionery was leading in that, and then we have dairy alternatives and desserts and ice cream, just to give you a bit of an overview. Consumers are looking for quality alternatives to meat, dairy, and more. It's to get to that indulgence, you have to optimize your product, right? And there's an increasing need for plant-based food optimization, because when we ask consumers, why would you not consider buying plant-based alternatives? For taste and texture was the top answer given by consumers globally. And then we also had price, value for money as an important element to consider. Processed and artificial ingredients, also a challenge in the plant-based world. But there are also consumers that said that they don't know enough about them to be able to make a decision. But there is an increasing need for plant-based food optimization and a strategy for technology to improve taste and texture is to use a familiar technology for that. So starting by looking, for example, for dairy, to what extent do people accept certain dairy technologies and products? And that was a survey question that we asked. And we had pasteurization, fermentation, and enzyme technology that were quite accepted by consumers alone. So fermentation, for example, is a key technology that has been used over the past years for new advances in plant-based as well. And again, a nice example accelerated by the ProVeg incubator is cultivated here. They are offering solutions for creamy, dairy-free indulgence with some key categories like ice cream, cheese, and milk, using that whole fermentation technology to get a more creamy product. But there's overall focus shifts that we are anticipating on from having a lot of plant-based options. So the quantity to also have quality products. And the key challenge, of course, remains in optimizing for taste and texture, etc. But the future is now. For example, cell-based as a game changer in the next generation of indulgence. We have a lot of consumers that are interested in that technology. And even 1 in 2 consumers globally say that they believe that cell-based technologies can be the future of the food industry. But we already see that the future is now, right? There's a lot of developments going on. They're already scaling up more to be able to commercialize these type of products. But a nice indulgence example that we identified here are the iconic macarons made with chickenless proprietary egg whites. So these are developed by the Every Co, so the Every company, and they're celebrating the launch of an animal-free egg whites with the functionality of egg whites called Every Egg White. So again, chicken eggs were not used to develop the egg white. The egg white is the 3rd product launched from the company's platform in the last 18 months. And it's a San Francisco-based company partnering with Chantal Dion. And this is a designer of the French macaron of the West Coast, as she says. And there are many other cell-based tech examples that are really worth mentioning. In one of our early presentations, we had aquaculture foods as a case study. who had developed the first whole muscle cut sushi quality seafood alternative, also using microbial fermentation, which is a really interesting example. Then there's this one. So Plantish, this is a company that captures the whole cut element of salmon. And they even say, they position it as whole cut above the rest. And they say, think our Plantish salmon filet looks good? Wait until you taste it. Fresh, buttery deliciousness that melts in your mouth. So really positioning on that indulgence aspect, the experience of salmon, to have that mimicked as much as possible to the original experience. So this already connects really well to one of our other trends, amplified experiences. Amplifying the food and beverage experience really helps to master that indulgence aspect. So what else can help in amplifying that experience? And that's collaboration. So collaborations are pushing plant-based forward on the menu. We saw 1 in 2 consumers saying that they would like to see more collaborations to create indulgent flavors, textures, and or format combinations. And again, there are so many case studies to highlight, but this is one of them. This is La Vie Vegan Bacon. They are launched in France, and they are collaborating with multiple restaurant partnerships. So this is also increasing visibility, right, of this product. Restaurant partnerships include Hank, Vegan Burger. Then we have Pokawa and Furaha. So that is also a way to expand, let's say, a business. And just as a note, La Vie Vegan Bacon, they also position on the healthy aspect. They say that they're fighting their corner in the nutritional battle, but they have a big positioning on that as well. So this is already actually a good example of a healthy indulgence development. So let's look at some other nice examples that are collaborating for health and indulgence. And we already mentioned technology is really fueling the food of the future. It's really an accelerator when it comes to that. But when we ask consumers about what would they accept novel food processing technologies when it comes to their food, if they make it more, and then they had a lot of answer options. Health was a big driver for consumers to help accept new technologies in general. And what was interesting to see were the differences between regions. So that is also something that's that we consider. And the secondary drivers for accepting novel food processing technologies, they varied across continents. So for Europe, the second driver was less harmful to the planet, people, or environment, so a big sustainability focus. While in Asia, safety, product safety is an important driver. And in North America, taste. So health and taste, for example, in North America, we have a product launch here on the right from Moules, or Moules is the brand, and it's launched by Natrive. And they have a no compromise approach to nutrition. They're using the Perfect Day cell-based technology. And by using this technology, they offer the nutritional benefits of whey protein powder, but with much less environmental impacts than conventional whey protein powder. So there's already a nutritional approach there. And then they have launched the Moules product in many, many different flavors, strawberry shortcake flavor being the one featured on this slide. So this could be a way of attracting health-conscious flexitarians who are interested in that whey protein powder and to have it as closely in terms of nutrition as possible to the conventional whey protein powder. And when it comes to sparking consumer attention, you have to start somewhere. And it goes from sparking consumer attention to fundraising strategies is a way to see, well, to have a more growing business. But first, let's start with indulgent healthy snacking. We asked consumers in the last 12 months, how has your consumption of indulgent healthy snacks changed? And we see that 37% that they increased that kind of consumption, 48% stayed the same. And there are not a lot of people saying that they decreased consumption of it. So there's a wide interest in indulgent healthy snacks. And a very nice example here are the rule breaker snacks. This is a Bimbo-backed brand, and they launched allergen-free plant-based brownies and blondies. And they have launched recently an equity crowdfunding campaign to meet the demand sparked by a Shark Tank appearance that they already made last year. So they already sparked consumer attention, and then they are using their fundraising strategies to set their sights on $2.2 million in 2022. I think this is a great example of a healthy, indulgent product in plant-based, using their position throughout the whole packaging design as well, and on their websites, also comparing their rule breaker products to the other guys, they say, in terms of ingredients being used. And then they also have the not as good for you, not as good for the planet. So also the sustainable elements that they weaved in there, which is, of course, again, a nice potential tiebreaker for the consumer whenever they want to buy. The circular economy making its mark on the food and beverage industry. This is a highlight of our upcycling redefined trend, which is also strongly connected with Share Planet. So the upcycling of ingredients, we see a plus 69% of average annual growth in food and beverage launched with a food waste or an upcycling claim over the past 5 years globally. This is really showing that it is a trend that is becoming mainstream, and brands need to be creative in the way they promote their upcycling and recycling credentials so that they ensure the message is both authentic and positive as well. The Cacao product that you see here is one of the first products that also use the upcycled certified claim that has been launched, also making the whole concept of upcycling more tangible to the consumer and also more trusted. So again, here, partnerships and collaborations are really interesting to look at. We see the co-branding that we have here in focus is Renewal Mill and Miyoko, which launched their vegan cookies from upcycled ingredients. And Renewal Mill, they already have had that ingredients flour from upcycled ingredients, but that collaboration into a salted peanut butter cookie is really interesting. And I'm excited to see what other collaborations will follow. My last case study here is Fresh Starts. So Fresh Factory, they built a platform to accelerate the growth of food and beverage brands. They say that they are vertically integrated from the farm to the shelf, and they offer services above and beyond traditional manufacturing. They're positioning themselves as a trusted growth partner. And they have their expertise in fresh, and clean label, and plant-based products. So these are very familiar concepts to us, right? And they're running the Fresh Starts accelerator program to help prepare emerging brands to go to markets. So an example that they helped to accelerate is here the Field plus Farmer products. And I think this is a great example, again, of a product that uses interesting ingredients like butternut squash, healthy ingredients, have a very clean label approach when you look at the ingredient list as well, highly familiar ingredients, and a very sustainable approach when it comes to the overall branding. So just as a case study to see how accelerator programs can also help launch the next generation of overall fresh, clean label, and plant-based products that are, of course, all appealing drivers for consumers. All right. So I hope you enjoyed diving into plant-based consumer priorities and market inspiration with me. We have a lot more market inspiration if you want. And just as a summary, we covered today health-forward messaging and how to attract health-conscious flexitarians. You have also seen my selection of best practice examples of plant-based products that have mastered indulgence. And last but not least, we saw some very interesting collaborations, and I'm very excited to see how collaborations are opening doors for more health and indulgence opportunities. So thanks again for listening. I hope you enjoyed it. And I'm now open for any question that you may have.
Yes, thank you so much, Meerte, for this very insightful presentation. I learned a lot, and it's very exciting to see all these new product developments and collaborations, new technologies, and yeah, people actively looking to reduce their impact on the environment and also increase their healthy snacking. So we've got quite a few questions. There's some in the chat, but I'll start with the ones in the Q&A. So someone says that they noticed it tastes better as a reason, dropped from the top 4 consumer reasons for considering plant-based alternatives from 2020 to 2021. And does this fit with what appears to be the anecdotal slowing in the take-up of plant-based meat alternative? Is the taste experience expected? Is it not necessarily being met anymore?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
So originally, people would go for plant-based because it tastes better, but that dropped down.
Yeah. That's interesting to see indeed. So because it dropped down, it's not visible in the top 4, right? Yeah. I actually looked that up earlier as well. It's the 5th driver, so it's still a very important driver for consumers. But we do see that those additional elements are very important in the overall purchasing decision. So also health and sustainability, and that these have been, let's say, gaining ground in terms of share when it comes to consumer perceptions. And taste is always important, obviously, also for the manufacturers who are developing the products. But when it comes to the secondary positionings, health is the most important one, and then there's environmental sustainability.
Great, thank you so much. The next one is on the topic of nutrient density. How would you generally define that, and in which type of applications do you see the most innovations around it?
Nutrient density. So can you repeat the question, please?
So on the topic of nutrient density, how would you generally define that? And in which type of applications do you see the most innovations around it?
How would I define nutrient density? Yeah, it's when of a specific nutrient, there's a lot of in it. So for example, a protein dense product, or a product that is very high in fiber, then I would consider that as a nutrient dense product. But also when it's combining several nutrients and has a great balance between those categories that we see a lot of growth in terms of nutrient density. I would actually be super interested to look that up using our database, because it's something that we can do. So in our database, we actually look at all the nutrition labels that we see on products, and we can really do interesting analysis with that and see in which categories, which nutrients is really popping out. So that would be actually a really nice follow-up question with us as a company.
Great, yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing more as well. I think we've seen more innovations around omega-3, for example, being added, or algae products being used, and enriching of typical products that we have with vitamins and micronutrients.
Yes, I think that definitely algae is a very, very interesting space to look into. There's also one that is a bit lesser known, but one of my favorites to watch out for, and that is water lentils. So this is also a water plant that has a very high protein content, high quality protein as well. and a very interesting ingredient that doesn't require a lot of space because you can grow it in water basins and stack them. So that's also a really interesting ingredient that I spotted over the past years, and I'm excited to see if that will be applied in products as well.
I'm sure it will. Very interesting. Great. And on that note, someone was asking, is all plant-based food healthier and better for the planet? They say they can agree on the ingredients by name, some of the products that you listed, but some of these products are not always grown in the most environmentally friendly way.
That is a very interesting point of discussion. It's really a broad point of discussion, indeed. Yeah, I can only agree to that. It's yeah.
I think what we've seen from the studies is that overall the plant-based diet has the lowest environmental impact. But if you look at a very granular level on certain ingredients, then maybe they have a slightly higher water footprint or maybe a slightly higher land use.
Yeah.
But overall, it's still massively reduced compared to the animal-based diet.
Indeed. And that is where we also, it's very important to track where the ingredients are sourced. And we know that consumers are also interested in knowing more about that and have that transparency. So that they can actually know if it's indeed, does it actually have an environmental impact when you look at all those different ingredients? Or,
We may need more eco-labeling so people can make informed choices.
Yeah.
Another question is, how important is the packaging to the consumer's purchase decision? Would biodegradable packaging assist in the sales of the product? Is there any market data done on this?
Yeah, so packaging is absolutely important. It's the business card of the product. It's the first thing that you see when you walk around in a supermarket. It will have impact. It's also the place where you put your positionings and claims and nutrition on. So yes, it's very important to consider that aspect of your product. And we do have a lot of data on packaging as well. We have a whole packaging insight platform. We have different filters that we use in the database to explore the different types of packaging and also what's on the packaging. And we launch every year our top packaging trends. So that's next to the top 10 trends. It's a special feature that we do to have more insights on that aspect as well.
Great, well, very interesting. I think people will be interested to look into that. And there's also a question, is there any market study on the rise of veganism in Africa?
Is there any market study on the, I will have to check that. Maybe we did. And if we didn't, then again, another super interesting question for us to explore.
Yeah, as a ProVeg, we're now launching Africa accelerators to help organizations do more plant-based outreach and advocacy. And so we would be very keen to see that as well, if you have any data.
Yes, I do remember a product case study that I saw in South Africa, but it was launched for the traveling industry. It was actually an alcoholic product, normally using cream in it. And now they had a plant-based alternative of that. So that would actually also be a very interesting plant-based indulgence case study. But if you're interested to know more about that case study, you can always reach out to me. And we're excited to explore that area as well.
Great, thank you. And so will there be a movement or shift from plant-based to cell-based products, or will it be parallel and the demand for plant-based will continue to rise? Is it worth investing into cellular agriculture, for example, research and development?
Well, we already see a lot in cell-based agriculture, and I think these are super exciting times. We see so much development. Also here in the Netherlands, we saw that the government has already approved cultured meat tastings. So that's already interesting to see. So we've been hearing and reading a lot about cell-based. And there's always a group that is less likely to accept new technology. We saw that earlier in the slides as well. But I'm also sure that a lot of people are interested and excited to taste something that can mimic meat or dairy so well and so closely, more closely even than a plant-based version. So I'm definitely expecting a movement in that sense. So people wanting to try that out. but I don't think that it will probably not compete with plant-based on all levels, because simply consumers are not always interested in mimicking. There are also people that are looking for novel experiences from for novel experience and amplified experience from a plant-based alternatives point of view. Mm-hmm. So maybe think of plant-based hospitality and gastronomy growing much more, with chefs coming up with super creative dishes using plant-based ingredients and therefore making it a super new experience. Yeah, so to answer your question, I think there will be indeed a parallel demand for plant-based. So more into that amplified experiences concept, and that cell-based will also be super interesting. So there's a parallel, and that would make most sense to me at this point.
Great, well, thank you. Yeah, I think we've seen that with other predictions as well, right? That we will have plant-based alongside cell-based, and still some meat-based, kind of animal-based products in the future. But it's interesting to see how much of the category will be dominating.
Yes, indeed. Yeah.
And is it best to really focus on one of the categories? Just coming back to the initial questions of whether the product is healthy, tasty, or sustainable, or to try to find a way to achieve all three and communicate that to the consumer.
Yeah. So we indeed saw some case studies that are positioning on all those aspects of health and taste and sustainability. And I mean, I think you're in a winning situation when you're able to do that. But I would also be super cautious with very health forward or sustainability messaging when it's basically overshadowing the other aspects, unless that is really a core part of your brand appeal with consumers. Because if it's too much of a bold move, it could backfire. It needs to be it needs to make sense within the overall storytelling, let's say. I recently saw an example of an article that was in the Financial Times in January, and it was about some discontent that Unilever was facing about their Hellmann's mayonnaise. So they were launching a strategy for Unilever last year, and they held it up as a brand with a purpose, with the CEO mentioning fighting against food waste. That is the purpose of Hellmann's. And that's that statement, that it was all about their purpose, that was kind of criticized according to that article. And I just quote, they were obsessed with publicly displaying sustainability credentials at the expense of focusing on the fundamentals of the business. So when looking at that kind of, how it basically backfired, it's a really fine line between using product communications as a tiebreaker in consumer decisions and having them overshadow the basic purpose of your product.
Yeah, good insight, I think, because people need to still believe it's credible and genuine, what the claims are, and I think it's
indeed, and that's where the storytelling comes into play, and how it connects with your actual brand purpose.
Yeah, great. Yeah, and this is a question that we often see, and it's a very important one. So, do consumers expect to shop plant-based in a regular fixture or in a specific area of the store? And this is the same for on-the-go products.
Sorry, can you repeat this?
So basically, should it be in a regular fixture, for example, the free from section, or in a specific area of the store, or should it be placed alongside meat or animal-based products?
That's an interesting question, and it actually depends currently by country and also by supermarkets on how they shelf these products. I think the strategies also should differ by country because there are a lot of differences that we need to consider based on that. A good example for that would be in France. I think France was, for me at least, quite difficult to track when it comes to the mainstreamization of the trend, because we felt that because of like cultural traditions, the French were a bit less open to plant-based innovation, looking at our consumer surveys. So they're using a lot of different strategies in order to make it more mainstream anyway, and that's in supermarkets. So there was a recent article on how in Carrefour, one of their main supermarkets, they actually put the plant-based meat alternatives right next to the butcher's shelving. So that is indeed an interesting approach to make it at least more visible to the consumer whenever they walk around in the supermarket.
Yeah, great. I think that there are pros and cons on there, because if you, if people don't find it where they are looking for it, then it doesn't help. Of course, it needs to be where people expect.
Indeed, and I don't think that the mainstream consumer will always go to, for example, the free from section. But again, this differs by country and by supermarket as well.
Yeah. I see that we have quite a few more questions, but we're running out of time, and I'm so sorry. But just one final question, and this is about the ingredients themselves. You can have different vegetable origin proteins, for example, beans, soya, chickpea, the same good image. Is there any ranking? Do you have any research on this?
Yeah, that's a very good question. We actually do. We recently launched a survey on meat alternatives and on dairy alternatives and on other alternatives as well. And we looked into different ingredient bases that are typically used for those kind of products. So indeed, for example, pea and soy and wheat and potato proteins, etc. And we looked at the familiarity of these proteins and also at the acceptance of it. So that also gives a lot of insightful, that's a lot of insightful data to have. And we also have it available by country, by the countries that we surveyed. And then we can connect it to what we actually see in product launches to see if that really aligns or not, or where the opportunities are actually. So that's indeed something that we can do.
Well, so thank you so much. I think there's such a wealth of information that you hold, and that you have as a company. And I think a lot of people will be getting in touch to find out more. And yeah, I just want to thank you again for the presentation. Really, really excellent presentation. And thank you all for the people who participated. And the recording will be available both on the ProVeg New Food Hub and also the Innova Market Insights website. So thank you everyone for joining us. And I'll see you again sometime.
Thank you.